Many tools and many opportunities surrounding you at this moment. Don't let it pass you by just because of the fact that your first grabbing of a rock while you're rock climbing didn't go as planned, where you slipped off a little bit. Now, here goes a time when coming in as a first year student, a freshman, I should say, into college, you don't know how things are gonna play out. You don't know what to expect. All you know is that from what you've seen on TVs, you're probably seeing parties and different people dropping out and crazy times, something like Project X, if anybody have seen that movie before. But in my eyes, I was a nervous wreck on my first day in college. I had a cousin who ultimately ran into me in the library and she was like, why you tensed up? Like, relax, like it's just school, like just go to class. Your class is gonna be in this building, your class is gonna be in that building. You're gonna be fine, stop tensing up, you're good. Like, you look so nervous. I'm like, all right, I don't know. So my first day of classes, well, my first week, syllabus week, actually went pretty well from what I actually hoped for. I thought I was gonna be going through a lot of vigorous things in class. I thought things were gonna be at a different speed that I couldn't be able to maintain and handle. But lo and behold, to my amazement, I was actually able to keep up. So first week was in the books, boom, I'm good. So as my first week, second week, third week came along, I made sure to stay up with my studies and made sure to actually take my books and do the assigned readings that I was assigned to do. And newsflash for you, in high school, middle school, grade school, I didn't like reading. I never read a book. I was like, I'm not reading that crap. I'll write a book report on it, but I'll freaking go through, what's that website? What's that website? It's a website that give you a synopsis and a summary of the book that you're trying to read. But that's what I typically did. But this was a different ball game. I actually had to read the textbook and actually had to synthesize everything and understand what I was reading. Now, I read my chapters, did the studying, took active notes, and I was like, let's go. I got a good feeling about this. Now, I had a psychology exam in week 4. That was my first exam in my college career. Now, with the preparation of like 3 weeks, I thought I would have been good. I walked into my psychology class, sat down, took the exam, walked out of the class once I was done with the exam with the feeling that I didn't do as good as I wanted to. I ultimately felt as though I failed the first exam of my college career. So I'm texting my older cousin, trying to get a hold of her, telling her I failed. I'm trying to call her, but she didn't pick up. She was busy and whatnot. But I ultimately went back to my residence hall room or dorm room, and I just was in shock that I probably didn't do well. I was in this little rut, but after a while, I went to lunch with my friends. I went to dinner and I just brushed it off and I said, time for me to go on to the next chapter and start reading up on different things and getting ahead of what I've done. So now, once that happened, I went to class the next week. The professor already had the exams graded, and as she passed them back, I grabbed mine and I looked at it and I had I believe it was like a 72 or something like that. And on that grading scale, I believe it was a C. So I said to myself, I was like, I don't know how I was able to study all this much and end up with a C. Like, how is that even possible? Like, my motivation and my determination to continue on came from here and down to here, where all the negative things that were going throughout my mind, talking about how college is hard, was actually starting to be appropriated with how I did and how I scored with my first exam. So I went to my professor's office hours after the class, and I sat down with her and I was talking to her about how I didn't do too well on my exam. I don't know what was going on. I don't understand. And to my amazement, she was actually surprised too. She said to me, she was like, Ruben, I'm actually surprised that you didn't do as well on this exam because you were one of the students that were actively participating in class and knew all the answers to anything that I asked. She was like, is there anything that I could do a little bit better? Or was the exam tricky? Or was things going on while you were taking it that was causing you to not do as good as you wanted to? So I spoke to her a little bit, and she basically gave me the layout of her exams. I walked around with my friends. Every interaction that I had, I was throwing out psychology terms, making sure I understood everything. I took my second exam, passed it with an A. Took my third exam, passed that with an A. And the fourth exam was optional. That was a final. It was optional because of the fact that if you were good with your grade and you liked where it was at, you didn't have to take the final. You could have went home. Now, with me getting to the point in time that I was at with getting the A's after I started off the semester with a C, I bring this up because there's some of us who are hoping for a greater day or hoping for something greater to happen in our lives, but we have that negative thought in the back of our mind. That negative thought that's telling us, yo, you can't do this, man, this is not gonna work out. What you're doing is not sufficient. What you're doing is not good in order for you to get to where you need to get to. That negative thought that's sitting in the back of our minds eventually is met up with some of the failures that we're having physically in life. And instead of us taking a step back or finding a mentor, finding someone that has done it before, we ultimately settle for what we have thought things would have been to what things actually became. Now, I'm saying to you right now, don't just settle after the first sign of adversity. Don't settle after the first sign of things not going correctly. Because if I was to settle for that C that I received on my first college exam and not seek the help from my professor or not go and talk to my professor to understand how her exams are set up and understand how her teaching method is, I probably would have been settling for C's from that point on in that class. I would have been putting a whole bunch of stress about how the professor isn't good because of the fact that I didn't seek out the necessary help that I needed in order for me to put myself in a better position with getting the A's and making the dean's list that fall semester. Now, there's a saying that says closed mouths don't get fed. You not asking for the help, you not seeking guidance from someone that already been through the path that you're going through is ultimately going to put you in a position that is undesirable. All the negative things that was going throughout your life and throughout your mind will start to solidify and start to harden within your soul and within yourself. And you will start to tell yourself that it's not possible and it's not attainable until you see somebody else do it. Then you'll start regretting, like, wow, this class was actually not that difficult, or this task was actually feasible. I just wasn't trying hard enough. I just wasn't thinking hard enough. Listen, there's many tools and many opportunities surrounding you at this moment. Don't let it pass you by just because of the fact that your first grabbing of a rock while you're rock climbing didn't go as planned, where you slipped off a little bit. No, grab back onto that mountain, grab back onto that cliff and start pulling yourself up. Because if I would have given up on myself after that first exam and settled for that C and not want to do more for myself and not want to strive more for myself, I ultimately would have been satisfied with getting C's and B's throughout my whole entire college career and saying that it's okay because I've tried hard enough. But at the end of the day, I knew that I probably wasn't pushing myself to my limits. Listen, leave a comment below detailing a time where you potentially thought that you were giving all you were able to give, but then you realized that you had another gear that you haven't shifted into. And when you shifted into that gear, things ultimately played out to the way you wanted it to play out, or even better than how you envisioned it. Listen, this was Ignite. We're only here to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to ignite the flame within you so that we can ignite the flame within somebody else.